So now we're going to continue on with our lesson. We're going to go learn about pedigrees today and sex-linked traits. So you're going to understand the difference between autosomal recessive and autosomal dominant. Remember, dominant always wins. Recessive, you have to have two people who carries a gene. So let's talk about a pedigree. A pedigree is a graphic representation of genetic inheritance, almost like a family tree. So we have to identify males versus females. Okay, so males are usually square and girls are circle because girls make the world go round. The relationships between individuals and whether they are affected or not affected. As you see here, this is just a sample of a pedigree. This will be your first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation. So how do we continue to make a pedigree? So if you are a square, you are a male. If you are a female, you are a circle. But if you are shaded, shaded means that you are affected. It could be with anything. It's just not with a disease. It could be, hey, hitchhikers, dumb, or it could be, hey, you're shaded because maybe you had sickle cell or something. It could just be just as simple as that. If you are unshaded, that means you're perfectly fine. If you are half shaded, that means you are carriers. That means you do not have it, but you can spread. That will call you to be heterozygous. So a lot of times when that's written, it's obviously going to be like this, right? And depending if it is homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive will determine if you're fully colored or not. So unaffected is unshaded. What does affected look like? We shaded in all the way. And if you're a carrier, just half of you. So here's a simple pedigree. First thing I want you to realize is that each one of the connectors where the people begin is a generation. So this one has 4 generations. Okay. How do we identify the kids? Well, we identify the kids by the lines who go directly down. See how that line goes from this parent? This is their marriage. This means married. Okay. So when they married, they had kids. This line right here, that's their children because it came from them. This is their child. It came from them. This is their child. Remember, left, right, this connected. This is marriage. Going down with the connector, that means kids. All right. Thing is, oldest kids are on the left. So this will be their oldest child where it says 1 right here. That's the oldest. So the oldest goes to the left and the youngest will be here. Okay. For how many children that they had, all right? So how many males are present and how many females? So all I would want you to do is count every square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. How many females? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. How many females show the trait being studied? Well, we're looking at obviously the colored in, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is the sex of generation 3, child 9? So go to generation 3 and we go to child 9. That right there is a square. So that is obviously a male. And how many offspring did generation one have? Generation one. So how many kids did they have? So that's the lines. One, and they had a set of twins. So 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the difference between generation three, generation two, children 3 and 4, and generation four, 2 and 3? Well, if you look here, these are twins, but 2 circles obviously mean they were girls. So it was twin girls, so identical twins. And then here, this is fraternal twins. That's how you be able to read a pedigree. Now, this right here, this whole chart is called a karyotype. We have to understand how to read these. Remember these right here, the XY determines is if you're a girl or boy. That's chromosomes number 23. So those are called sex chromosomes. Okay. Right here, the 1 through 22, those are called autosomes. Those are your body cells, right? Somatic cells. Please remember that. This is a karyotype. So if I say, hey, where is the sex chromosomes on a karyotype? You just tell me number 23. That's it. That's number 23. So we're going to talk about autosomal recessive. Well, what is recessive? Remember, recessive is always like 2 little letters, right? So first thing you remember, if it's recessive, we had a parent and they both carried a recessive gene, you come out with recessive. If we look at a pedigree, how do we know it's recessive? Because recessive does not happen in every generation. Recessive skips. That means your grandma may have green eyes, but your kids may come out with green eyes. It skipped a generation. So generation skips. So this here, that is one color and it's only one person. So that's obviously recessive. It's not dominant. So males and females are equally. Um, the traits characteristically found in siblings, not parents. And parents of affected children may be related if it depends on what it is, what type of disease or where it is. So here we have a pedigree. We realize it's recessive. It has a generation here. So again, it skips generations. So here's a positive. Then all of a sudden, this right here, if you notice, this came from the same lineage. This is incest. And what happened to their child? They became affected because you're not supposed to, even though the people are like, oh yeah, your fifth cousin, you can start. No, look what happens. No, you don't do that mess. All right, so autosomal recessive again. So again, this is all mostly from recessive genes. 2 little letters. Recessive alleles must be inherited from both parents. You can't just say I got it from them. No, this little R right here, because they were carriers, will make you come up positive. It makes you that. So it's always a 1 in 4 chance. Now this is more common in certain groups. We got cystic fibrosis, we have Tay-Sachs disease, and we have PKU. Well, cystic fibrosis, as you see here, we have a recessive thing. We can have people who are carriers, and so you remember this is 1, 2, 1. This right here, pretty much defective proteins. This is basically giving thick mucus in the lungs and in the digestive tract. So it's basically like you can't breathe sometimes because your lungs are always compact with mucus. This is most common in Caucasians, Americans. 1 in 20 carry this gene. 1 in 20 actually carry the gene. Treatment is physical therapy and special diets. Now we have Tay-Sachs disease. Tay-Sachs disease, I actually say sometimes I say Tay-Fat disease. And it's not that I'm trying to be funny. It's just because it does take away the fat gene. So this is an issue in the central nervous system. What happens is that it is the absence of the enzyme that breaks down lipids causes the lipids to accumulate in the cells. And what happens is the cells get too fat. This is poorly among your Amish and your Jewish cultures. Again, most of the time both parents have to be a carrier for you to have this, or both parents would have to have this for you to have it. So now we're going to talk about PKU. So PKU results from the absence of an enzyme that converts the amino acid phenylalanine to tyrosine. And what happens here is that if it doesn't break down, it does damage to the central nervous system. This is common in Norway and Sweden. Treatment is basically giving them a low diet in this. This is something in your liver, and you do not want that. So autosomal dominant. First thing you notice, every generation, at least one person per generation has this. That means that's a dominant gene. Okay, dominant. So this disease is passed from father to sons. This will never happen with X-linked genes, and we're gonna talk about that. We have that the next thing I'm gonna talk about. The disease has to be occurs in 3 consecutive or more, basically. Males and females are affected with the roughly same probability. So again, one person at least per generation. What are some examples of the dominant? Well, again, this is dominance. And if you are dominant, obviously you're going to have a big letter, or you're going to be a big letter, little letter. Regardless, if you have a big letter, you're going to be dominant. So we have examples such as tongue rollers who can roll their tongue. We have hitchhiker's thumb. So bend your thumb back, see what you have. Yeah, mine just sticks straight up. The Hasberg lip, free earlobes, like your ears hang, almond-shaped eyes, thick lips, Huntington's disease. That's one of the ones we're going to talk about. Polydactyl is one we're going to talk about. So Huntington's disease. This again is dominant. As you see here, it's passed at least one person through each generation. This is very lethal because what happens, it breaks down certain parts of the brain. Basically, your brain is like this, and by the time you get older, your brain is shrunken, and we got pieces is being ate away. So this is not reversible. It can happen. It happens between the age of 30 and 50. Once you get about that time, your brain begins to deteriorate. No effective treatment, can't stop it. Then we have polydactyl. This is many, and dactyl means digits. So look at this. This is true. These are not fake pictures. This is not Photoshop. Again, this is dominant because we see at least one person in every generation. This guy got 6 fingers. This guy, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't realize he had 6 toes until you really look back and realize that person got 6 toes. So a sample pedigree. Let's do a little problem with you. Could this be inherited as a simple autosomal recessive? Is this a recessive gene? No. Why? At least one person in every generation has it. So this is dominant. This recessive or dominant? Dominant. Why? Because every generation has it. Recessive or dominant? So this is just going back a real quick flashback. What type of mutation occurs when a nucleotide is missing from a DNA strand? Deletion, right? Missing, taken away. What is the complementary mRNA sequence for this? So mRNA, right? And what aspects of DNA encodes hereditary information concerning the organism's traits? The base pair. That is what we know how the base pairs go because it makes the proteins. So now as we finish the first part, I am going to go ahead and continue with these so we can get through with this lesson in this unit. So now we have sex link. So sex link is again going to be on the sex chromosomes. Okay. The other ones was body cells. Those are autosomes. That's why I said autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant. This right now we're going to talk about sex chromosomes and their issues. So just as a quick flashback, remember as humans we have 46 chromosomes and that is 23 pairs. So hint for you, remember sex chromosomes is number 23 on the karyotype, right? And we have 23 pairs. So just remember number 23, 23. So autosomes are the first 22 pairs. Sex chromosomes is the 23rd pair. And again, the sex chromosome determines the individual. Females are XX, males are XY. If you have a Y determines gender. I don't care how much you look like a man. If we pull up your chromosomes and you don't have a Y, you a female. Okay? So a woman can have, again, just one X or whatever. It don't even matter. But it's that Y determines your gender. So sex length is obviously controlled for these sex chromosomes. Remember, it's number 23. It's always at the end. And how do you know X's are long lines and a Y is a little line? And so if you see at the very end, it doesn't even tell you. You see two long lines, that's a girl. If you see something like this, that's a boy. All right. So Thomas Hunt Morgan, he basically studied this, and he studied fruit flies. He discovered that the gene on the eye cover is on the X chromosome, and Y doesn't have no allele for the eye color at all. So, with that being said, this is your boy and this is your girl, female, if you know the symbols. So the girls have a red eye. So every time you see them with a little fruit fly with red eyes, say, "Hey, girlfriend." So we have the wings. All X-linked females will be long-winded and all males will be short-winded. So here's the long. So if, again, it was a sex-linked disease or a disorder, they would come out. But let's talk about humans now. Enough about flies. Most human traits are carried on sex chromosomes and also located on the X chromosome. Okay, the X chromosome comes from who? The females. This is where the males hate us. Is because we are able to pass down these diseases, but we don't actually have it. So let's talk about sex-linked recessive conditions. So one of the first one, as you see here, is again, this is more prone to females passing it to males. All right. So you see, this is a male. He has it. We know this is recessive because it skipped a generation. But who had it again? So if you only see boys have it, that means it's pretty much sex linked. Okay, guys, unfortunately, that X that's on sex link, the girls pass it to you and we don't really get it ourselves. So that's why you see the diseases never pass from father to son. Males are going to be more likely to be affected. Not saying a woman couldn't have it, because if the woman carried the gene and she had a baby with a person who has the gene, their children, it is a higher possibility. All affected males in a family are related through their mothers. Okay, if you notice here, the mother, regardless they had the dad, it came through the mother. So sex link, the first one is color blindness. Those affected cannot differentiate between red and green, and it is caused by the inheritance of two recessive alleles, two sites on the X chromosome that affects red and green. So this is sex link. Take a look and see if you can read these numbers. Pause it and see if you can read it. Because if you can't read it, you need to go get your eyes checked, like ASAP. All right. So this is what we see. This is what they see. This is what we see. This is what they see. And the biggest question I always get: how can they drive? Well, obviously, if we know green is at the bottom, when I see that one highlight, that means I need to go. If I see this one up here highlighted, I need to go and stop too. Another sex link here is hemophilia. Hemophilia is basically does not allow the blood to clot properly. So basically, let's just say someone shot you. You could keep on bleeding and die because your blood will not clot. This affects more males, obviously, because of sex link. This is treated with blood transfusion and factor 8. So as you see here, let me show you the pedigree for this. Girls are carriers because, again, girls pass it. Males either going to have it or they can't have it. They cannot carry it. So guys cannot carry. Now, some pedigrees are not going to have this right here to show you that they're carriers. Okay, you would just have to realize, okay, this guy, he is colored, he's colored, he's colored, he's colored. That just means, okay, and to skip this generation, that would mean it would honestly be recessive, but this will automatically give you a link for sex links. So even if any time you see it when a woman is halfway colored and the squares are colored all the way in, this will always be sex link. Another sex link is have SCIDs, which is severe combined immune deficiency. Basically, you can take away this part and put it as acquired immune deficiency, which is AIDS, right? So it's the same thing. It works in the immune system, and what happens is it reduces the production of white blood cells, making it difficult to fight bacterial infections and viruses and fungi. So what happens is you get sick, you can possibly die if you have SCIDs. Can be treated early, but if not, it can be fatal because you can't be around. You ever heard like the kid in a bubble and stuff? When the immune system is so low, like anything can make you sick and die because your body can never fight it off. And that's basically when people get HIV, your immune system begins to die slowly. But if you have AIDS or you don't really have an immune system anymore, that's why people die. Um, so here is just again reflecting back. Tall plants are dominant to short plants. What is the outcome if two short plants reproduce, right? So if tall plants are dominant, that means that'll be that, and short plants is, recessive. So we did this times this. All short plants, right? David has A blood. His mom and dad have AB blood. What is his genotype? Genotype, not phenotype. Genotype will be what actual his blood thing is. So his mom has A blood, and his mom and dad have A type A and B. Um, so once you do the pedigree, mom, dad, and he has A blood, it'll be like this. And remember, this last one, it says the selection of allele for the trait to be passed on has nothing to do with the selection of an allele for another trait, which of Mendel's principle is this. So law independent assortment. Remember, this is only under your sexual thing. All right.